The tapestry of global affairs is woven with threads of conflict, strategic shifts, and profound human impact. From the strategic strikes crippling critical infrastructure to the unfolding geopolitical realignments and the deep personal tragedies of war, events continue to challenge perceptions and reshape realities across continents. This report delves into a series of pressing developments, highlighting the multifaceted nature of current international dynamics and their far-reaching consequences. Recent reports indicate a severe disruption in the central region of Russia, attributed to Ukrainian drone attacks that have left significant areas without power. Concurrently, several major oil refineries, vital to the nation's energy infrastructure, have sustained repeat strikes. This sustained pressure on key facilities underscores an ongoing effort to degrade the military-industrial capacity of the Russian Federation. For their part, Ukrainian defense forces confirmed a strike on an oil refinery in the Saratov region. This facility, one of Russia's oldest oil processing enterprises, boasts an impressive annual processing volume and is understood to be critical in meeting the needs of the Russian armed forces. These actions are described as part of a broader strategy to systematically dismantle the foundation of Russia's military aggression. In a disturbing incident highlighting the spread of conflict-related tensions, a Ukrainian family traveling on a train in Switzerland was verbally and physically assaulted. The assailant, upon hearing the Ukrainian language, initiated a hostile confrontation characterized by shouting, threats, and ultimately, physical violence. The victim's partner, a Swiss citizen of Belarusian descent, quickly understood the xenophobic nature of the aggression. Footage captured by the victim revealed the attacker's aggressive demeanor and manipulative behavior. Despite police intervention, initial responses were slow, and further legal action is being pursued. Following the public disclosure of the incident, additional victims came forward, describing similar threats and assaults by the same individual, identified as a Latvian national, often acting in concert with a Ukrainian woman holding refugee status in Switzerland. This situation highlights the disturbing potential for international conflicts to manifest in unexpected and deeply personal ways, even in neutral territories. Further afield, the geopolitical landscape in Eastern Europe continues to evolve with concerning developments. Sources report the involvement of North Korean military units in operations within Ukraine, particularly in the Sumy Oblast. These units, operating from Russia's Kursk Oblast, are reportedly conducting aerial reconnaissance using unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs, to identify Ukrainian positions and adjust artillery fire. Intercepted communications between North Korean drone operators and Russian military personnel corroborate these activities. The deployment of North Korean troops is believed to be a response to significant manpower losses sustained by Russian occupation forces and the failure of their offensive operations in the Sumy region, indicating an escalation in the nature of foreign involvement. Simultaneously, a significant geopolitical shift is observed in Russia's Far East, where external powers are exerting increasing influence. China and North Korea are progressively expanding their economic and labor presence in Russia's eastern regions. Forecasts suggest Chinese investments in the region could reach substantial figures, though primarily focused on trade rather than infrastructure. A senator from the Khabarovsk Krai noted a significant increase in Russian-Chinese trade turnover. Alarmingly, China is also engaged in a creeping demographic expansion, with estimates suggesting millions of Chinese residents now inhabit the vast expanse from Vladivostok to the Urals, a number that continues to grow. Parallel to this, North Korea is executing a labor expansion, with tens of thousands of its workers arriving in the Far East, fulfilling numerous labor contracts for Russian companies. While these workers receive minimal pay, their remittances provide substantial annual income for Pyongyang. This creates a complex dynamic where two nuclear powers are solidifying their positions within a third, utilizing Russian resources to solve their own economic and labor challenges. In the long term, this growing foreign presence and influence risk creating conflicts of interest and could lead to Russia losing effective control over a substantial portion of its own territory, turning the Far East into an arena for external strategic interests. On the front lines of the conflict, defensive operations persist, particularly in the Pokrovsk direction. Reports indicate that approaches to the city are becoming a burial ground for Russian forces, with thousands of casualties sustained in and around the area. Efforts to counter enemy sabotage groups within the city remain critical, emphasizing the vital role of UAV operators and specialized counter-sabotage units. In other sectors, such as the Oleksandrivska direction in the Dnipropetrovsk region, Russian forces are attempting to advance eastward and northward after recent territorial losses. Activity is also high in the Holyrypol direction, characterized by constant enemy aerial and artillery engagement, and active use of small arms, resulting in a significant number of Ukrainian casualties, primarily from concussions. Despite these pressures, the overall advance of Russian forces has reportedly slowed significantly since the autumn, a development attributed in part to the ongoing supply of advanced weaponry from international partners. The flow of military assistance to Ukraine remains a critical factor. This week, Finland is set to deliver a new package of military aid, while Lithuania, Estonia, and the Netherlands have pledged financial support for additional weapons acquisitions. These contributions are part of a broader international initiative focused on procuring American weaponry with funding from NATO allies. The U.S. Defense Secretary recently emphasized the importance of this program, urging allies to commit more resources to ensure Ukraine's capacity for a peaceful resolution, stating that true peace is achieved through strength, not mere rhetoric. Further significant military support appears to be on the horizon. Reports from prominent media outlets suggest that the U.S. Department of Defense has developed a plan for transferring or selling long-range missiles to Ukraine. This strategy reportedly includes the deployment of American specialists to operate these sophisticated systems, minimizing escalation risks and preventing the transfer of sensitive technologies. There is also speculation that this move could serve as leverage to encourage Germany to supply its own long-range missiles to Kyiv. In a clear statement of intent, the U.S. administration has issued a stern ultimatum to the Kremlin, declaring that if the conflict does not cease, the United States, in concert with its allies, will compel Russia to bear the cost of its continued aggression through decisive and unique measures. This pressure extends beyond the conflict in Ukraine, impacting global energy markets. The head of the U.S. Treasury has indicated the readiness of the U.S. administration to impose substantial tariffs against China should it continue purchasing Russian oil. While a large bipartisan group of U.S. senators supports this authority, similar measures have not been adopted by the European Parliament. Intrigued by potential financial mechanisms for Ukraine, reports also suggest a plan to create a Ukraine Victory Fund, to be financed by these very tariffs against China. Furthermore, Indian oil refineries are reportedly preparing to reduce imports of Russian oil following discussions between the former U.S. President and the Indian Prime Minister. While an immediate cessation of purchases presents challenges for global oil prices and inflation, the Indian Ministry of External Affairs confirmed ongoing discussions regarding energy cooperation with Washington, without explicitly mentioning a halt to Russian energy imports. In a move that could significantly alter the financial landscape of the conflict, the German Chancellor is set to propose at an upcoming European Union summit the utilization of frozen Russian assets in Western nations to provide Ukraine with a substantial loan. These funds are intended to bolster Kyiv's defense needs and maintain economic stability. The Chancellor previously proposed an interest-free loan backed by these assets, emphasizing that such a measure is aimed at ending the war by demonstrating unwavering European support and making Russia feel the full economic consequences of its aggression. This proposal will be a key discussion point at the forthcoming European Council meeting. Internally within Russia, a notable political dynamic is unfolding with the perceived decline in influence of a prominent Chechen leader. After a series of controversies, including a recent dispute with a State Duma deputy over the renaming of historical Cossack settlements, the Chechen leader appears to have fallen out of favor with the Kremlin. The general, who commanded Russian troops in Chechnya decades ago, publicly voiced outrage at the renaming efforts, reminding the Chechen leader of past actions against the Russian-speaking population. The Chechen leader's fiery retort, which included suggesting the general should go to the front lines, sparked a wave of criticism from state propagandists, who openly questioned his authority and compared his military record unfavorably to that of the decorated general. The controversy escalated further with a public voting initiative by the Russian Central Bank for a new banknote design. The Chechen leader's vigorous campaign to feature an image from his republic led to widespread inter-ethnic and intra-ethnic discord across Russian social media, prompting the central bank to hastily cancel the vote. This incident, alongside the growing nationalist sentiment in the Russian hinterland that rejects anything non-Russian, suggests that the Chechen leader's unique status and autonomous style of governance are increasingly incongruous with the current Russian political reality. Analysts suggest that the Kremlin's objectives for the Chechen Republic, including its subjugation and the stationing of a large military contingent, have been largely achieved. This leaves the Chechen leader's future role uncertain, as the very propaganda and special services that built his image now seem poised to dismantle it, potentially leading to accountability for past actions previously glorified. Adding to Russia's domestic challenges, the nation is facing a deepening fuel crisis, largely attributed to the aforementioned Ukrainian drone attacks on refineries. Repair timelines for the damaged facilities are projected to extend well into 2026, exacerbating an already critical situation that has affected over 57 regions. Reports from numerous areas describe widespread fuel shortages, restricted sales, and long queues at gas stations, even in oil-rich regions. While authorities publicly claim the situation is under control, eyewitness accounts portray a different reality. The technological backwardness and outdated production structures of Russian refineries mean that the loss of operational plants has significantly reduced domestic capacity. The replacement of key components with inferior alternatives has led to a decline in quality, forcing a potential lowering of fuel production standards to 1970s levels. This degradation is expected to cause widespread vehicle breakdowns as cars struggle to run on substandard gasoline. Wholesale gasoline prices have already surged, and the country faces the prospect of becoming up to 60% dependent on fuel imports by early 2026. In an attempt to mitigate the crisis, authorities have implemented a complete ban on gasoline exports, relaxed environmental requirements for refineries, quadrupled fuel purchases from Belarus, and eliminated import duties to facilitate imports from China and Azerbaijan. However, these external suppliers are unlikely to offer fuel at preferential prices, further burdening the Russian economy. Amidst these geopolitical and economic developments, the human cost of the conflict continues to mount with tragic intensity. Russia has been implicated in the deaths of 2 more Ukrainian children, 16-year-old teenagers from temporarily occupied Melitopol. Accused of terrorism and arrested, the boys were subsequently reported by Russian occupation authorities to have died. While the official narrative claimed death by an improvised explosive device during partisan activities, evidence strongly suggests they were tortured to death in April of this year. Despite requests for DNA identification, the children's bodies have not been returned to their parents, underscoring the horrific realities of captivity and the ongoing atrocities committed in the occupied territories. In summary, the current global landscape is defined by dynamic and often unsettling shifts. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine continues to exert pressure on Russia's infrastructure and economy, while also triggering profound geopolitical realignments in its eastern periphery. Simultaneously, the struggle for international support for Ukraine remains crucial, with significant military and financial aid being mobilized from Western allies. Internally, Russia faces economic instability and political realignments, while the humanitarian toll of the conflict remains devastating. These interconnected events paint a picture of a world in transformation, where vigilance, strategic foresight, and unwavering commitment to fundamental human rights are more critical than ever.